Hi guys, it's Sean here, and today I'm going to be doing a video for you talking about my top 10 horror movies. Now, this is my top 10, so you might not agree with some of my choices, you might agree with some of them. But I'm just going to be doing a quick run through these. I will be doing like in-depth reviews on them eventually, but just for this video they're going to be quick run throughs. So here we go, let's start with number 10. Number 10 on my list is The Descent, released in 2004 and directed by Neil Marshall. The Descent's about a group of friends that go on a cave exploration. They get trapped in this cave, and it turns out that this cave's home to a load of nasty creatures. Now, what's great about this movie is it's an all-female cast, really strong characters. You don't have any of your stereotypical, cliche women horror movie characters. No bouncing boobs, no dumb blondes, just a load of kick-ass women. And another thing that's great about this movie is the claustrophobia in this movie. You don't even see any creatures for the first hour. It's just all the tension and terror is built up by this environment. But it turns out they didn't actually film any of this movie in a cave because the director decided it'd be too hard to film. So they actually built the caves. They built 6 in total. So some great set design in this movie. You wouldn't think that these weren't, genuine caves. As for the creatures themselves, when they turn up, trust me, they are scary as hell. You don't even notice them at first, but then when you do see them, my God, it's shocking. And the cast didn't even know that this was going to happen. They didn't know that these creatures were going to be there. So all the reactions are genuine. Really, really good stuff. Some great survival horror in this, great characters, and there's some really nasty, gory fights. So yeah, check this one out. At number 9 on my list, we've got Scream, released in 1996 and directed by the late Wes Craven. Rest in peace. Now, Scream's about a group of friends that are being hunted down by this serial killer who's obsessed with horror movies. And me and my brother used to love this movie when we were growing up. It was one of our favourites. But rewatching it these days, it has lost a lot of its scares thanks to the Scary Movie franchise, which parodied it. But still, it's a great movie. It's full of self-referential humour. It sticks to the horror movie tropes that we know, like don't drink, don't do drugs, don't have sex. And it turns them all on the head. Really clever and ahead of its time when it did come out. Also, you've got a great plot twist at the end, a great twist ending that I didn't see coming the first time I watched it. I still think it's a really good ending. And I really like the start of the movie. It's probably the most iconic part of the movie. You've got Drew Barrymore, one of the biggest actresses of the time. And you think, oh, she's going to be our main character, and she dies within the first 5 minutes. That's a really good scene at the start. It really sets the tone for the rest of the movie. So yeah, really good ideas, great plot twist at the end, really ahead of its time. Scream, awesome movie. At number 8, we've got The Hills of Eyes remake, released in 2006 and directed by Alexander Aja. I'm sorry if I butchered your name. Now, The Hills of Eyes is about a family that go out onto this trip through the desert. While they're in the desert, they get stranded, and then they get attacked by this group of cannibals living in the mountains. Now, apart from the beginning scene, it's a really slow build up to the horror. This family knows something's going wrong, but they can't quite put the finger on it. It's just strange little things that are happening. But it's only when the caravan scene happens where shit gets real. A couple of the members of the family die, and then it turns into a survival horror movie, basically. The main character in the movie, Doug, he starts the movie as, he's like a phone salesman, a really weedy guy. By the end of the movie, he's shotgunning mutants, he's rifle butting people, and he's saving his kid. I love that sort of evolution between characters through movies like this. And all the cast in this movie were great. You could see the dynamics of the family great. Everyone played the role great. I'm saying great a lot, but it's a great movie. So during the last third of this film is probably the best part of the film. It's set in this nuked out town. Doug's going to save his kid from these mutants, and it's just an all-out brutal brawl between him and these mutants. There's some really great kills in there, some amazing fight scenes, awesome gore. So yeah, The Hills of Eyes, check it out. At number 7 on my list, we've got Jeepers Creepers, released in 2001 and directed by Victor Salva. This movie stars Justin Lin and Gina Phillips' brother and sister, and they're going cross-country and they're being pursued relentlessly by this creature. Now, the greatest thing about this movie is the creeper. It's only until the last 20 minutes of this movie you actually see what he is. At the very, from the start you can't tell what he is. He's chasing them in the car. You don't see him. All the windows are blacked out. He's dumping bodies down the chutes. You don't see him. You can't tell what it is until the very end of the movie, where this isn't a guy. This is one really fucking nasty creature. but everything building up to that was just so intense. You know, the scene where he goes down into the basement of the church and all the bodies are on the wall. The scene with the cat lady, the crazy cat lady, that's not my scarecrow. That still creeps me out to this day. The character of Giselle, where she's, you know, hinting, you know, you hear Jeepers Creepers, you run, because that means bad shit's going to happen to you. But I love this movie. It's always scared me. It still scares me today. And the very ending scene in the police station, it always reminds me of Terminator. I don't know why. But the Creeper is an amazing villain. That last scene where he's missing his peepers, you know, that was actually Justin Lin in the Creeper suit. So they are actually his eyes. So Jeepers Creepers, number 7 on my list. Really great monster. A cool concept and just overall a pretty terrifying film. At number 6 we've got The Conjuring, released in 2013 and directed by James Wan. And this movie is about Ed and Lorraine Warren, real life paranormal investigators who go and help this family living in this farmhouse that's haunted. Now it sounds like your generic haunted house movie, and it is, but it's done in such a masterful way by James Wan that it feels fresh and new. You know, you've got none of your things that horror movies these days rely on. There's no blood, gore, there's no swearing, no nudity. It's just good horror, just directed brilliantly. You know, one of the scariest movies in this scene is these two girls who are just sat there staring at this dark corner. You can't see what's in the corner. It's just your imagination running wild. And I really thought the family were good in this. They're all believable. It was good how that you had Ed and Lorraine Warren's characters, and then you had the Perrin family. Yeah, that was that. You had the Perrin family, and they both got enough screen time, so you both cared for each group of characters, so there was real stakes involved. You know, you wanted them to come out the other end of this thing. So, great movie. The only problem I have with this film is the last scene, which is an exorcism scene. And it's kind of run-of-the-mill, but it's still directed great. James Wan did an amazing job with this, and I can't wait to see The Conjuring 2. Number 5 on my list, we've got The Thing, released in 1982 and directed by John Carpenter. And The Thing is about this group of scientists in the Antarctic that come under attack by this alien which can replicate other humans and animals. Now, I've got to get this off the back straight away. The effects in this movie are amazing. All practical effects. They're over 30 years old now and they still look stunning today. They still turn my stomach. And as I've ranted about this before, I can't understand. If they could do it back then, why can't we get effects like this now? But moving on, this film doesn't just rely on the special effects. It's got an amazing soundtrack by Ennio Morricone, I think his name is. I'm sorry if I mispronounced his name. But his soundtrack's amazing for this film. You know, it sets up this paranoia between all the men, and even the actors in this movie didn't know who was the thing and who wasn't. So it's all genuine, the interaction between them. It really like sells the movie. You know, Kurt Russell was one of the best parts of this movie. You know, he's got a great supporting cast with him, but this was one of his standout roles in my opinion, one of his best. So that was it. Number 5, The Thing. At number 4 on my list is Insidious, released in 2010 and directed by James Wan. This movie's about a kid that gets trapped in this dream world. It's called The Further. It's kind of like between life and death. And while he's trapped there, all these demons and ghosts are trying to invade and possess his body. Now, I watched this film for my birthday when it came out, and it was one of the best cinema experiences I've ever had. I just sat there with my friends, and as soon as that music hit at the start, we were all shitting ourselves. We knew we were in for a good time. Now, a lot like The Conjuring, this movie, it doesn't rely on blood, gore, violence. It's just all genuine scares. I mean, one of the best parts of this movie is where Lin Shaye's just staring at the black ceiling and she's describing what she can see. And as with The Conjuring, your mind just does the rest. James Wan knows how to do horror, and he did a great job with this movie. I love the series. I think this is the best one, but I can't wait to see where Lee Whannell carries the rest of the series. And as much as people complain about the demon looking like Darth Maul, that fucker shows up at your house, you are going to shit bricks. So that's where I stand on the red-faced demon. At number 3 on my list, we've got A Nightmare on Elm Street, released in 1984 and once again directed by Wes Craven. Now, this movie's about a group of kids that are getting stalked in the dreams by a murderer. And if they die in the dream world, they die in real life. Now, I remember the first time I watched this film, my mum and dad rented it from Blockbuster, and I begged and begged and begged my dad to let me stay up and watch it. I sat there for the first 5 minutes of the movie and I wanted to go to bed. And he sat there, he was like, you fucking wanted this, you are going to sit here and you're going to watch the rest of this movie. And it traumatised me. I had nightmares for months, so thanks for that, Dad. You're the reason I am the way I am. So, yeah, this is probably the most iconic horror movie on my list, with the most iconic horror movie character, Freddy Krueger. You know, he's a legend. And while it's not very scary today, I can appreciate it for what it was in the day. There was some great special effects in there, really original idea when most of the horror movie characters were just silent killers. Freddy Krueger was the first one with personality, and he stands head and shoulders above the rest. One of the greatest horror movie characters ever, if not the greatest. So the first one's legendary, the rest of them subpar. I'm going to do a series review of all of them because I love all the movies, even though they're shit. So yeah, that's number 3 on my list, A Nightmare on Elm Street. So you're probably thinking, if Nightmare on Elm Street's number 3, then what could possibly beat that? But number 2 is Saw, released in 2004 and directed by James Wan. And it's about these 2 guys that wake up in a bathroom. They don't know how they got there, but they're chained to pipes and they've got to escape. Now, I know what you're saying, you're a fucking James Wan fanboy, but I remember when this movie came out, there was so much buzz about it, but I was too young to watch it in the cinemas. So, when it did eventually get released, I was walking through Asda's, I saw it in the DVD aisle, and I was like, Mum, Saw! And I bought it, and I just sat there, and I just soaked it all in, and I loved every minute of it. I love the idea of it, you know, this serial killer who's making people, you know, work to live, really, in a way, you know, he's making them see the error of the ways, so their lives are worth living. I love all, like, the little clues that they've got to find out. I love all the puzzle solving and the twist ending, man. I just remember my melon was blown. It was incredible. I just sat there and I was just like, oh, that Charlie Clouser score was playing in the background, and I just loved every minute of it. So I have actually got a Saw tattoo. You know, that's how much I love the film. So, call me a James Wan fanboy. They are on about remaking this movie. You can't remake it because its originality was what was so amazing about it. So, like it or not, that's my number 2, Saw. So, you've got to be wondering, what's my number 1? At number 1 on my list is The Evil Dead 2, released in 1987, directed by Sam Raimi. And in this movie, Ash from the first movie, for God knows what reason, goes back to the cabin and he's got to fight the Deadites once again. Now, I just love this movie. I love all the series. I love Ash vs. The Evil Dead. I thought that was an incredible series. And I just love these movies so much because I grew up with them. Me and my dad used to stay up late watching these on the Sci-Fi Channel movie. And Evil Dead was always my favourite. You've got one of the greatest protagonists in all horror movies in Ash. He gets his chainsaw arm and his boomstick in this one. He loses his hand, you know, just all these crazy scenes, and it's the perfect blend of comedy and horror, and it just turned out great. All the effects look a bit cheesy these days, but just riding on the nostalgia, you can just see past it and just love this movie for what it is. It's just a great time, and it just sets up Army of Darkness so perfectly. I'm going to be doing a review of all this franchise as well, and the series, because I just love Evil Dead. So that was number 1 on my list, Evil Dead. Now, if you like this list, give it a thumbs up. Let me know what your favourite movies are. If you didn't like my list, it's just my list at the end of the day. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. So comment below, let me know what you thought. Give this a thumbs up. Sub me if you like my videos. And I'll see you next time. Bye.